Welcome to the Dental Brief, the world's direct, right-to-the-point podcast produced to get you the information you need to learn and grow your practice. To learn more about our guests and find links to information discussed on our show, visit our website, dentalbrief.com. On to today's episode.
Hello, everyone. I have back with us today on the program, Dr. Richard Kramer. Dr. Kramer, say hello.
Hi.
Hey, so glad to have you back today. And this is going to be a kind of a fun subject. And I actually brought this to you. Usually our guests tell us what they want to talk about today. I asked you if we could talk about the subject. So let's just jump right into it real quickly. Let me just, and you can fill in the blanks here. Dr. Kramer, you've taught, you're a pediatric dentist. You've run some amazingly successful practices with up to, I think, 150 employees at one time. I mean, you've been there, you've done that. You run kramerdentalconsulting.com. So you're qualified to speak about the subject of business and dentistry. Would you agree with that, Dr. Kramer?
I like to think so.
Yeah, I think our audience would too, especially when they check out the site and learn a little bit more about you. But here's what I want to talk about. So, you know, I spend time in forums, and Facebook fan groups, and I'm in the dental community, and, you know, I'm listening, and from time to time I'm engaging with, the audience that's out there. And, you know, one thing that I hear over and over and over again is it's almost kind of comes as a complaint that, you know, business is not taught in dental school and how it should be. And I think someone could make the argument for the amount of money that they do charge for dental school nowadays that maybe they should be teaching dentistry. They probably give you a law degree too, with what they're charging. But you taught dentistry and you've been in the business side and you've helped people run successful businesses. So here's what I'm going to ask you. How does someone know if they should get into the business of dentistry? And I don't mean become a dentist, of course, right? Anyone, you know, you can stay an associate for the rest of your life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what are some things that you should look at to try to decide? And how do you go about that process of trying to decide, should I be a business owner, or do I just want to be a dentist and take care of patients and nothing else for the rest of my life? What do you think about that?
I think it's very interesting because my experience has been that most dentists love doing dentistry, and many of them would be just so thrilled to just do dentistry, not have to manage a practice, not have to manage staff, and it's just the physical act of doing the dentistry, dealing with their patients, and go home and have no further issues. But as you said, you know, if you want to own your own practice, there's a lot that comes along with it. And I think dental schools don't teach it because, interestingly enough, in a 4-year period of time, they probably feel their curriculum is so full, they do not have time for the business of dentistry.
Sure.
And I think it's unfortunate because so many young people come out of school with student debt, and now to begin a practice is very costly.
Yep.
And there's a lot of competition now, and now they're competing with corporate dentistry. So it's very discouraging to some individuals, and so many of them are now working for dental corporations. But if you do that as a stopgap measure, and you say, well, I'll do that, I'll earn some money, and I'll figure it out. For a lot of people, they get really comfortable. They have no responsibility. They do their work. There's no continuity in a lot of these individual groups or corporate offices because people are coming and going. And then there are quotas, and it's for some folks that's what they want. But for many, they start there but don't have a plan to take the next step. Sure. And so I think it's really important that it all starts with developing your personal strategy. And I like to think that's one of the ways that I can be helpful, because I was a solo practitioner. I developed a group, and now I built the group, and now I have stopped practicing dentistry and doing full-time consulting. Yeah. So I understand the dilemma, and there's so many, I would say most dentists do not have a plan. They just don't. It's all about the bottom line. Can I survive? Can I pay my debt? Can I buy a house? Can I support my family? You know, and they're not thinking about the next years. Now, for most of us, we at an early age will take out insurance, just general insurance, because we want to protect the future. Many people invest in retirement plans because they want to protect the future.
Right.
But the single most time-consuming part of your life, other than family, is your practice.
Sure.
And what are we doing to actually plan what our roadmap is going to be?
Sure. And I know that's important, right? And I think everyone actually knows that it's important. They just don't actually, a lot of them don't do it, right? And that's where they need help with someone like you. They know it's important, but they need someone to help them be accountable and actually do this. But I want to kind of get a little bit more into the psychology of this a little bit. So, in most lawyers, right? So we're going to just talk about, highly educated, very intelligent careers. Lawyers, most of them are associate. Doctors, most work for hospital systems, right? Architects, most work for big firms, right? So why is it in dentistry that there's this automatically, like this almost this expectation that if you're going to become a dentist, that you need to own a business, that you need to go into private practice, and that you have to have a business, right? There's so many other things in life that this happens. Like we've seen significant changes in our culture as far as, when people get married and when they have children. And now we're starting to see fewer and fewer people have children. I think a lot of people thought they needed to have children because that's just what you do. A lot of people, I think, just want to own a dental practice because that's just what you do. That's the next step. It doesn't have to be the next step, but the psychology of it. Why do you think that happens? Why do you think it's so driven, start a business?
Well, I think today in many industries, it's competition. There's a fear of there's a perception that you will have a difficult time becoming successful in whatever industry simply because there's too much competition out there.
So that comes to how you measure success, right? Though, because I think if you put 1,000 dentists in the room and asked, what makes a successful dentist, or what is a successful dentist? It would all come down to profits and practices, right? How their practice, retirement, profits, and that sort of thing. But you don't have to make money you don't have to be wealthy, or I should say rich, to be a successful dentist, correct?
Well, but I think part of that too is what you would like to do in your professional career, the type of work you would like to do. So for many individuals, they choose a specialty. For other individuals, they want to do a little of everything. And the big ticket items are cosmetics these days, whether you're on the medical side or the dental side.
Sure.
And so are you positioning yourself to have choices as to what you would just like to do in your career? Forget how wealthy you're going to become or how secure you're going to become. But when you go to work every single day, is what you're doing satisfying?
Right.
And so when you work for yourself, you may have all the issues, but you also have the choices. You can make the choices whether they're good or bad. But if you work for somebody else, you're going to be working with their choices.
Sure.
Mostly for an associate, the practitioner is going to offload the work he does not want to do, offload the type of insurance coverage he does not want to do. And you're then still not working in the capacity you optimally would like to work in, unless you have a very clear agreement when you're starting out with whatever entity you're working for, that this is where I'm starting, this is where I'm going, and this is where we're all going to be at the end of the day. And it's just a matter of trying, and it's not easy, as you know, whatever part of life we're talking about, to sort of really analyze what you would like in life. What are your real top priorities? I think for most individuals, they just want to be able to live a normal life.
Sure.
But you also want, when you go to work every day, you want to enjoy what you're doing. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, it's work. And the difference, the old expression is the difference between work and pleasure is one work you have to do, and pleasure is as selective. So
Sure.
I just think a thought at the early stages where you really find yourself so consumed, you're not really thinking big picture, is important. In dentistry, particularly if you want to get into the psychology of that, and I will include myself as part of a large group of people in the industry, dentists, by their nature, are focusing on a narrow area of interest, the mouth. And
Sure.
in some cases, the tooth, in some cases, just the root canal or the position of the teeth, if you're an orthodontist,
Right.
or the cosmetics, if you're really into that component. So by our nature, we're focused. So are we prepared for the big picture? Not everybody, but some. And I guess I would include myself, because I always loved the business side, the having a business strategy and exercising that was very enjoyable for me.
Yeah. So let me ask you this last question on the subject. So someone's just out of dental school and maybe looking for that first job, or maybe they're in their very first job, but they're trying to figure out where they want to go. That's actually a really good time to talk to someone like you, correct? Isn't that actually a really good time to talk to a consultant at the beginning of that trajectory, as opposed to somewhere in the middle of it?
Well, for example, dental schools should be inviting folks like myself. There are folks, but there's not a lot of folks who have sort of gone through the practice side themselves,
Right.
and now come out the other end and are sort of expert in dentistry.
Sure.
Mostly they're academics who are full-time. This is what they do. They publish, they write, they lecture, and that's their career, and they teach.
Right.
But if you're on the practice side, you're so busy with practice, just for most people, that consumes all their energy.
Right.
But the time to really try to think about it is when you're in dental school. I'll give you a very simple example. Where do you want to live? What state do you want to live in?
Right.
Do you want to be close to family? Do you want an environment? Do you want weather considerations? Or you're a skier, you're in Denver. You ski, right? Skiers go to Denver. Denver's a very attractive place. Or do you want to be in Hawaii? Right? I mean, so you can take it to an extreme. So the first thing is to figure out in life where you want to live. Because once you set up, you're often just committed. It's a very challenging move to make after you've started you're working, you have a young family, and now it's not a great time to figure it out. And once your kids get to school age, now you've got all those individuals and friends and other factors.
Sure.
Early is better pretty well if you're able to. And if you're not, then you seek advice. And I grew up in Eastern Canada. I grew up in Montreal. I went to school in Boston, the dental school at McGill in Montreal. Went to Boston to graduate, had an opportunity to stay on and teach and practice. Ended up in Vancouver in Canada, where I really built the practice, and now live in LA doing a lot of consulting. So everybody has their journey. Would have been easier for me to just set up in LA. I see that now. But at that point, my journey was such that this is where it took me. But for others, you have choices. You should try to do that,
I think you've certainly lived in 3 out of the 4, some of the 3 out of the 4 amazing cities. I'm not going to say what the one that's not so amazing is.
Which one are you excluding?
I'm not plead the 5th there. Well, thank you for talking about this with us, Dr. Kramer. I'd love to have you come back on at some point. I want to remind our guest of your website URL again. It's kramerdentalconsulting.com, and really encourage them to reach out. And for those listening today, or you can see it on our website, a link. Dr. Kramer, you will do you offer a free consultation for those seeking services like yours, correct?
Absolutely, because people have to decide if they think I can be helpful for them.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Kramer, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
It's good. Hey, have you ever spent any time in Alexandria Bay?
What's that?
Do you ever spend any time in Alexandria Bay, New York?
You know what? Half of our family was from New York, so
Oh,
I
yeah?
spent a lot of time in New York.
Where at?
Well, they were mostly on Long Island.
Okay.
Where they hung out. My daughters, who are performers, were lived right on Broadway. Right down in the theater district.
Yeah.
And so New York has always been. Montreal, New York they've been connected back into the 30s during Prohibition, where they were. Montreal was a very destination for New Yorkers and vice versa.
Yeah, I spent my summers as a kid on the St. Lawrence in Alexandria Bay, New York.
Oh yeah, where is that?
So from Montreal, you would go downriver. So it's just southwest of Montreal on the St. Lawrence River.
Oh,
so
yeah. I taught summer camp up in Screw Lake, New York too. I was a tennis instructor. Yeah, it's in Screw Lake. So
okay, yeah, I don't know where that is, but yeah, I was just on the St. Lawrence.
It's in the Adirondacks.
Oh, I was born in Saranac Lake in the Adirondacks.
Oh, Saranac Lake. Yes, yeah. I know. It's big stuff. But we used to go in Montreal, we didn't have any drive-in movies. So we used to all drive to Plattsburgh.
Yeah.
You drive 2 hours, go through the border, go to the drive-in and drive home.
Can't do that now.
No, you can't.
I know. I have a uncle who graduated from St. Lawrence. I have a niece that's in St. Lawrence right now, right there at St. Lawrence University, right there in Plattsburgh.
Oh, yeah, it's St. Lawrence.
Yeah. Well, pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for being here.
Take care. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. Did you know you can weigh in on today's topic on Facebook? Search The Dental Brief on Facebook or visit our website, dentalbrief.com, and just follow the link. We look forward to having you join us again on another episode of The Dental Brief.